Hey viewers and friends, Andrew back again, and welcome to another DVD and Blu-ray update. Got 9 titles to show you this time around. All of them I have seen, so yeah, I'm going to get straight into it. This is pretty much my Christmas haul really. I don't really celebrate Christmas massively. It's pretty much just another day to me. I do some family things and stuff like that, which is cool, but yeah, I don't celebrate it massively. So what I tend to do is just with Christmas money that I get early, I normally get it early, I just like to order a bunch of stuff myself. So I have been knocking off quite a few of my wish list items from both Amazon US and Amazon UK. So this is pretty much my first update for the month, obviously, and there's probably going to be another 2 or 3, at least 2, probably 3 more updates leading up to Christmas and the end of the month. But for now, this is what I've received so far. There's one non-horror title, so we'll start with that one first, and a bit of a mixed update. Pretty much everything from utter garbage right down to really awesome for this update. So yeah, the non-horror title is Kids at the Round Table. This is a mid-90s Canadian movie, and yeah, finally got around to picking up the DVD release. I think it got a DVD release last year sometime, so it has taken me a while to pick it up. I hadn't actually seen this movie since I was a lot younger. I used to love watching it. I actually had an old VHS that I recorded the movie on TV. I lost that one a while back, but it's good to finally own the movie on DVD. Really underrated, pretty unknown and under talked about family movie that I highly recommend. I did check it out again when I received it in my order, and it still holds up really well. Enjoyed it a lot. It stars Malcolm McDowell. He plays Merlin. It's about a young kid called Alex. There he is on the cover. He's obsessed with King Arthur, and a group of his friends hold these battles, medieval battles. They do up an old shed as a castle. They make homemade cardboard armour and have these battles. And then one day Alex comes across a real sword in a stone. He pulls it out, and of course Merlin appears. And yeah, it's basically just about Alex, his relationship with his friends, Merlin and stuff like that. Really, really good, a lot of fun, and I definitely recommend it. Okay, now on to the horror titles, and the first one is the Children of the Corn remake. I've been wanting this movie for quite a while now. I'm a massive fan of the original and the franchise in general actually. But I've got to say, this was terrible. The first half of the movie was decent, but the second half of the movie, it really went downhill, and you know, it turned into a crap fest basically. Too much time was spent with the corn kids chasing Bert in the fields, and then there was a really inappropriate sex scene with 2 of the teenagers, and while they were having their orgasms, the group of smaller kids were standing around them watching and cheering them on. It was pretty bizarre, but yeah, this really is not a good movie. I don't regret picking it up. I think I paid like $6 or $7 for it, so didn't lose too much money on it, and as I said, I wanted to check it out anyway, but not a good movie, don't recommend it. Picked up some slashers, always got to add more slashers to the collection. We have Delivery. This is a modern slasher movie. Unfortunately, it fell short. It could have been so much better. It should have been so much better than it was. Basically, it's about a pizza delivery guy called Monty who's put up with years of abuse from his boss and customers. He's had enough, and he starts killing them off one by one. The first hour was spent basically following Monty, getting teased, taunted. It was really repetitive, and in the last half an hour or 20 minutes or so, he went on his killing spree. The kills very mediocre. There were some pretty bad looking ones actually. yeah, it could have been better if it was more fast paced at the beginning and the kills were spread out throughout the movie a lot more and there were better kills. It would have been a pretty good, fun slasher movie. The best scene was when he killed the boss and then he diced him up and put his body parts on a pizza. The disc art is that. That's what the pizza looked like with the body parts. Easily the best scene of the movie, but yeah, not very good, so don't really recommend it. The next movie was utter garbage. It's another modern slasher called My Pure Joy. It's fairly dark, but My Pure Joy got released last year, I think it was, and this is a Shriek Show release. Very, very crap. Really low budget. Nothing wrong with low budget movies, but this was just low budget to the extreme. As the movie went on, it got worse and worse and worse. Whether they ran out of budget, I'm not too sure. The gore was the only decent thing about the movie, and even then it was only just decent. Atrocious dialogue, really bad acting, and just an all-round pretty crappy movie. So stay well away from My Pure Joy. It's pure shit. The next one is Deadly Manor. This got recommended to me from James, or 1RXmas1. This was a pretty decent movie. I wouldn't say it's anything great, but then it wasn't terrible either. The same director who did Edge of the Axe did this one, and my opinions are the same on both movies. You know, they're average, decent slashers. This one came out in the early 90s, and it's about a group of teenagers who come across a rundown mansion. They end up staying there overnight to get out of a storm, and there's an elderly couple that live there, and they start getting killed off one by one. The teenagers start getting killed off one by one. The couple had a really bad car accident in the past, and you know, the story sort of revolves around that. Great atmosphere. The kills weren't anything special. There wasn't a lot of gore, but you know, it was pretty decent, and the atmosphere was pretty creepy. The next one is Uncle Sam. This is the Blu-ray release from Blue Underground, and I highly recommend it. It's about $12 on Amazon, so great price. This has been on my wish list for ages, and I'm glad I finally got around to picking it up. I actually forgot about it. I know this gets a lot of mediocre reviews and response, but I liked this one a lot. Mostly for the storyline. It was really original compared to pretty much every other horror movie out there, at least that I've seen. A great American vibe to it. It's set on the 4th of July weekend. You know, it's about a ex-army soldier. He comes back from the dead, Uncle Sam, and you know, he goes on a killing spree. He targets anyone that's basically anti-war or anti-America. The only disappointment that I had with this movie were the kills, which is kind of a big deal considering this is a slasher film. Most of the kills were shown off screen, and you know, like I'm sure every other slasher fan out there, you like to see the kills. Unfortunately, they weren't really shown in this movie. If the movie had better kills, I would have enjoyed it a lot more, but you know, the story was pretty cool, great characters, and you know, I definitely enjoyed it a lot. So if you've never checked out Uncle Sam, I do recommend it. Next up we have Fingerprints. This is a movie that I'd actually rented out at my local video store earlier this year, knowing nothing about it except for the pretty cool, creepy looking cover. Gave it a go and loved it, so finally got around to picking it up on Blu-ray. This one's a ghost movie combined with a slasher film. It's about a teenage girl who comes back from a stint in rehab, back to her family in a small town. The town's supposedly cursed by a really bad bus accident that happened several years ago and killed a bunch of young school children. She comes across this little girl ghost, there she is on the cover, and she basically gets help from this ghost. She's trying to figure out what's going on. The first half of the movie is essentially the ghost story. The second half it turns into a slasher film. Really, really good. Definitely recommend it. And you know, in terms of combining a ghost story with a slasher, it's pretty effective. The last two titles I'm not really going to talk about too much because I'm wanting to do separate reviews on both of these movies at some point. But next up we have Camp Slaughter. Quick little shout out to Mood616. Mate, thank you so much for recommending this to me. I loved it a lot. I had such an awesome fun time with this movie. Pretty neat concept. It's set in modern time, like the mid-2000s, and it centres around a group of 4 young adults who come across this camp called Camp Hiawatha, I think it is. The camp is actually trapped in 1981, August 25th, 1981, I think the official day is, and basically a brutal massacre happened at that camp on that day, and you know, the camp is cursed, it's stuck on repeat, and basically they relive the killing, they relive that day over and over again, and have done for 20 odd years. It's basically up to the 4 modern day young adults to break this curse. Awesome movie, really, really cheesy, pretty corny, really high body count. I was really impressed with the body count. The kills, they were cheesy, but there were some pretty fun ones, some good variety with them, and it had a awesome 80s vibe. Great 80s clothes, they looked awesome, but this was a lot of fun and a pretty neat concept. So stay tuned for my review, but until then, if you've never heard of this one, check it out. It was a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. And last but certainly not least, we have My Super Psycho Sweet 16, the movie of the update. This movie was awesome, loved it. Again, I haven't really heard too many people talk about this movie, at least the channels that I check out here in the horror community, but this is a movie, an MTV movie actually, so yeah, and I was pretty surprised because it was pretty violent and brutal in terms of the kills. This one was awesome. I loved that it actually had proper teenagers playing a teenage cast. That was pretty cool. Great modern slasher. I think it came out in 2009. This one centers around a girl called Madison. She's a real bitch and she's turning 16. She wants to have her sweet 16 at the abandoned roller dome. Basically a killer went on a killing spree several years prior to the events in this movie. The roller dome had been shut down. You know, she insists that she wants to have her sweet 16 there. So of course it happens, the roller dome gets reopened and the killer makes an appearance once again and starts killing off the guests one by one. Really, really good. There's a lot more to the storyline than that, but I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to leave that to my separate review. But I definitely recommend it. I was really, really impressed with this one. And there's a couple of sequels to this one. There's part 2 and part 3, which I'm definitely keen to check out because this one was really, really good and I definitely recommend it. So, My Super Psycho Sweet 16. Alright guys, so that has been my update. I hope everyone's enjoyed it, and until my next one, thanks a lot for watching.